Good evening. Welcome to the October 11, 2022 meeting in the Trails and Greenways Committee of Newtown Township. Just a note, this meeting will be recorded. Secretary Cook, could you please call the roll?
Chairman Custer,
Here.
Vice Chair DiVincenzo,
Here.
Secretary Cook is present, Committee Member Blagraf, Committee Member Dungisa, absent, Committee Member Delia Archer,
Present.
Committee Member Falcon, absent, Committee Member McCarthy,
Here.
Committee Member Carr.
Here.
Thank you. Also present is Township Manager Neese. May we have a moment of silence? Please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is public comment for agenda items only. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next item is the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as written? Second?
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Next up are the minutes of the September 21, 2022 meeting. Do I hear a motion for approval of the minutes as read?
I move to approve Delia.
Did I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, next is item 7.1, discussion and possible action regarding future trail walks. Terry McCarthy.
I don't have any planned at this moment in time, but I expect we'll do one in November and one in December as we close out the year, so that we've had one every month since November of last year. And if anybody has ideas, open to suggestions. Otherwise, I'm thinking go back to the Meadows in November.
Is there any particular park that we have? Any particular park or location that we have that is especially good looking for the fall foliage this time of year? Garrett Williamson through the woods, you know, I don't know, because the Meadows is more a lot of short vegetation, not as many. I'm just curious, like, is an
Yeah.
option for the November
I
one?
was at the bird walk on Saturday. Coming out of Garrett Williamson, there is the most brilliant red maple I've ever seen in my life. It's fantastic.
Well, we will be there on the 15th,
Okay.
Harvest Festival.
All right.
So that's this month. It's huge, but we're talking about future, right?
Well, the only thing I'm thinking is, you know, not a lot of the colors have changed this time of year, so I don't know what else. If there's any other locations that do boast that, I just think it would be a good opportunity, especially with the, you know, with the educational sources we have in John and Beth usually that could probably talk about the different ecological changes that are going on. I don't know. I think it could be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, we missed out on the Drexel Lodge walk
Yeah.
because of rain.
Mhm.
So maybe that's covered because of the woods.
The other thing is, it's fine, I have to give back y'all credit. So I didn't know if one of them, the line, for instance, I saw they're doing some talking,
Mhm.
and we can talk, again, it's not intensive, but it's flooding, and they're also.
That's really up to the township. I think it's a great idea, but it's an issue of liability, I guess.
Yeah, we talked about that last meeting.
To do,
Yeah, to go external to the
and of
township.
course, people can do it.
What do you think, Steve?
I'm just thinking through on the liability side, if we're having people go outside the township. I don't know that it's a problem, but let me do some research and I'll get back to you.
You know, it's no pressing thing. I
No
just
rush.
follow them too, just like I follow us, and thought, well, for an unincorporated little town and this two people essentially doing it, I thought they're doing a lot. And
there's some really nice walks. There's actually one that's very interesting because the way to get into it, even though the trail's in Newtown Township, you have to go into Easttown to get the entrance, which is over,
Go down Goshen Road and then you turn left on
no,
Delchester?
you have to go up to, it backs up to St. David's. There's a piece of land that's owned by, I believe it's the Brandywine Trust. If it's not the Brandywine Trust, it's owned by the Willistown Conservatory Trust, but I think it's Brandywine Trust. And it's very interesting because I think most of the trail is in Newtown Township. It's just that we have no connection to it
Yeah.
from Newtown Township. You know where I'm talking about, John?
You're not talking about
I think
Enki
so.
Park, are you?
Huh?
You're not talking about Enki Park? Where the driving is, the driving range? That's right. that's what I
No,
thought.
this is, if, it's literally right across the street from the paper mill house.
Yeah, down there by St. David's Church.
Right?
Oh, I thought you meant St. David's, the community in Radnor.
No. I mean, I'm talking
I
about
was like, what, where do we?
it. Hold on a second.
I'm not sure.
Harrison Tract.
Yeah, the Harrison tract is across, is right next to it. I haven't been on it. I don't know it very well. Like, I just know that every time I see the map, it comes up that there's trails. In it, and I'm not exactly sure even how you get to it.
This is an off the target kind of suggestion, but you know, golf is kind of petering out in November and December. You think Aronimink would host us for a walk on Aronimik's property maybe in December?
I don't know. We'd have to make a phone call and see what they would do. I mean, it's a members only.
Yeah, but
Golf club,
nobody's
but-
golfing in, well, maybe some people are golfing in.
Well, I mean, they have winter time activities, but I don't know the answer.
They'd be more concerned about us just messing up the turf.
Yeah,
They don't do walks. But I can ask if you want me to.
do you remember?
I'm on the board there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that'd be feasible, we could stay in the rough, do whatever they tell us, you know.
I can ask.
Brilliant,
Sure.
thank you.
There is a good walking place called Summerhill Preserve. You go out Goshen Road, past the covered bridge and take a left, and that's owned by Natural Lands. But there's a little bit of a problem now. We used to go up a private driveway to access it, and then that changed hands, and they did a survey and found out the Natural Lands didn't own property nearby.
Is that the Claude Dupaton?
No.
site? Is it next to it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
A little bit further away. So that's a little bit off limits. Natural Lands is now in court over it, so that's going to be a little bit of a delay, but it's a beautiful area back there. It's just 40 acres. Plus another 40 acres. But we'll have to wait on that.
Have we anywhere to walk in that little winding way park? What's it called? The winding way?
I mean, not a whole lot. There's a short little thing. So the one I was looking for it's called the Waterloo Mills Preserve.
Oh, yeah. And that's right near the paper mill house. And there's property in Newtown. In fact, that's on one of our properties that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Trouble is, you go through that, you walk up the hill, and it's a members only area beyond that, which they're not
Okay.
too, we'd have to arrange to make a walkthrough.
Okay.
It's Waterloo Mills, it's a historic area.
Well, that was the one I was thinking about. I didn't
Okay,
realize it was a
got it.
members only. So.
I mean, that's a possibility.
But I mean, it is a trail that happens to come into Newtown.
Yeah,
Just not, you can't access it from within Newtown.
exactly.
Hmm.
It's like St. David's Church. Okay, and we were talking about at one time doing the park down on your Winding Way
Mhm,
and then going up the hill and working with Gather in the Circle.
mhm.
I don't know whether we want to talk about that. They might very well be interesting, but I don't know.
You know, you could consider doing that if you wanted to do an evening walk. We're gonna, and I'm not exactly sure the date. Do you know the date of the tree lighting?
That'd be nice. the tree lighting and then
So we're gonna have the tree
That's an
lighting.
idea.
And by the way, we're getting a new tree for that. Will be installed probably early part of November. I'm not exactly sure the date. Usually it's that first weekend in
Yeah.
December. So I would think it would probably be the 3rd or I'm sorry, Sunday, the 4th typically is when we do it. And so we do the lighting like kind of right after it gets dark,
Mm,
usually a little bit in that area. And so maybe you do a walk a little bit early
mhm.
around the park, not be very long, but then walk up and go up to St. Albans Circle that way if you want to do something
Yeah.
as kind of a way to tie the two together.
Right, and then we'd go by the church maybe too and go in and sing carols with them or something. I don't know. Do they have carols at the tree lighting?
Actually, trying to remember if the St. Albans Church did that or whether I know that a couple of years it was Spruce Street Baptist that sang carols, but I don't know who's been singing the last couple of years. Well, I
Sounds
think
like
nobody sang one year because COVID kind of changed everything, but
Yeah. I'm happy to, look into the December, on December 4th.
I believe it's December 4th. It's usually, I'm doing this a little bit, like not 100% sure, but it's
Okay.
usually the first Sunday in the month of December that there's the lighting of the tree. And then and there's, usually the dance studio does a show that the young kids put on, with
Yeah.
dance and stuff like that. And then Santa comes riding in on the fire truck. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, you could tie it. It's a way of tying your walk with that. Not necessarily a trail walk, but you could, tie it together. Maybe make it a little bit more of a neighborhood walk.
I like it.
Yeah, Paul Seligson's group, I think, is setting up the tree lighting, so
Is he?
that
Yeah.
would be the contact.
Okay, Paul, and then we'd make it into a Newtown Township walk, a neighborhood walk,
Mhm.
Newtown neighborhood walk.
Yep.
Okay. But I'd like to include some music. That's, such a holiday thing. So
John will bring his boombox.
there you go. He's gonna be Santa.
I doubt it. Need too many pillows for that.
So if we think Aronimink is better to wait or.
I don't think that. But I'm happy.
I would be very surprised if they did a public
Yeah.
outing.
Yeah.
Okay.
In relation to just this topic in general, though, does the township have anything? So, all right, if there are other instances in which we may be able to convince somebody on any private land that is a little bit nervous about the liability of the township, is there like a standard waiver that the township would approve of that we could have?
You know,
Or these
I
type
mean,
of events?
there's a natural, I mean, just by the state of Pennsylvania law, there's a natural coverage that the township has
Okay,
when it does certain activities. Now, that being said, that does not keep, and we could go to an insurance company and we could do additionally insured, and, we do that for different activities as well. But, that being said, we live in sorry to say, a fairly litigious society.
Yeah.
And because of that, a lot of people are careful because, it's not so much that we couldn't say we hold harmless. It doesn't matter if we hold harmless. I can't count how many times I know that the township's been sued, even though I could say the township wasn't even a party to the incident, but because it happened in the township, somebody sues us. And
I'm
it's
thinking the
and it's-
opposite.
but my point being is, even though we eventually get out and we don't have to pay anything, we end up having to expend dollars to protect ourselves. And that's the reason why a lot of times these places, and you understand if they're private clubs or whatever, they don't want to put that risk, because even though we could have a coverage from insurance that would say they were held harmless, or that they were additionally insured, that doesn't keep them from being sued. And that's the problem.
Even if I'm saying is that to make the landowners feel more comfortable, we have all the people participating sign a waiver saying you're not liable, period.
But my whole
Doesn't-
point is,
You can still sue.
They still can be sued.
Yeah.
They may get eventually dismissed, but they've got to hire a lawyer to go through that process.
that's why landowners are hesitant. I mean, I get it, I understand it, but we can look. I mean, I think there's some options. I think that, it's not a long trail, but there are some trails back at the paper mill house that we could potentially look at. There's some township property there. There's some other options if you're looking for some things like that even. I will say that the BPG Equus announced last night at the township meeting that they're putting in the trail that will go from where it comes back over behind the older of the new apartments that are over there, that will connect down to Winding Way. And so there, you actually could almost create a circle walk there between the trail and the sidewalk.
Yeah,
If you
good.
wanted to, from the John West house, and come back out and back around and do a connection point.
Actually, I was thinking, because I put a note that just there are a lot of trees, beautiful trees right now. So, yeah, it's a well pedestrian. Groundhogs are quite active. It's amazing. These groundhogs rode under these.
Yeah.
The history of these trees, very founding.
It used to be an arboretum and
Yeah,
people
no,
went.
it's so it's really just in terms of fall viewing, and then Goshen.
Hmm.
It could be
Yeah, that could be
Well,
nice.
maybe we should start over there for the holiday Christmas tree lighting thing. Because there's ample parking in that
as long as we
hospital
can get-
area.
I don't know, Echoes is big. We don't know more. Have to get.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was-
let me have a conversation. Let me see what I can come up with.
Okay. Any more discussion on trail walks?
Talk about the one coming up,
Which one?
the October.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay, October 15th, there are 4 walks at Garrett Williamson, and each has 20 available slots. They're all filled except for a cancellation. Now 2 are open, but then we have additional people who are signing up through Trails and Greenways. And so that represents 80-some people right now doing the trail walks at Garrett Williamson. So if anybody is available and would like to volunteer to help, basically John can do 2 in the beginning. I can do all 4. My daughter Alex can do all 4, but still that leaves you with, and there's so much activity, there's going to be some coordination.
What time's the start of the event?
The first walk starts at 10:30, and then there's an 11:30, 12:30, and 1:30 walk. So if you can do any of those to help, that would be fantastic.
I can help.
Jerry, we're out of town. so-
You're out
I
of
have
town.
some later, but I can help.
Thank you.
So
Have one you'd like to do, that'd be great.
earlier the better.
Okay,
Be easier because then I have to get back and maybe before we gotta go. Or I'll do the 10:30. I can help out and volunteer.
okay, 10:30 sounds great.
Put
So
it in my
we'll meet at the main
The
lodge.
same place last time?
No, that's the pavilion. The
Okay.
main lodge is the big stone building. It's just down from the pavilion. So we meet in front of that.
Meet in the parking lot?
Okay.
No, down in front of the lodge. Park in the parking lot.
Okay.
No, actually, you can't park in the parking lot because there's vendors. So the parking is going to be told where to go.
All right.
And if you're going to be there, I'll put you on the volunteer list and then they'll have your name and they'll waive you into special volunteer parking. So you don't have to pay $30. So anybody else, so it's John and I. Anthony and cool.
Mhm.
Additionally, there's 25 more signed up. I'm not sure how they're fitting into all this, but we'll be able to take up to 25 people per walk. So I just didn't look at all that. And we now have 557 members.
Wow.
So it'd be nice to do something for them someday because they're nice people. Township guy.
Pizza party.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more new business to be discussed? Hearing none, let's move to old business. 8.1, discussion and possible recommendation regarding the 3111 Sawmill Road Land Development Project. Anthony.
Yes, so we talked about this obviously during the last meeting. We put together a draft. It's gone back and forth. We got input from everybody in the subcommittee. And I'm gonna pull it up.
Can we get that on the screen? Okay.
Pull my copy up because I can't read that, but. Yeah, so the basic gist is unfortunately, this was a piece of property that was originally put on the Trails and Greenways Master Plan years ago that we were trying to hopefully keep as an open space for a couple of reasons. One, because it connects to our neighboring township of Radnor and Skunk Hollow Park there. So that was one main reason, and we were hoping. The other thing is obviously there's just dwindling locations in general. So in the main tenets that we obviously comment on all the time are the walkability and the preservation of green spaces. So we wrote recommendations, went back and forth on it, and then we sent this in. I think, John, you just sent it in, late last week, right? So potentially a natural surface. We were asking potentially also if there would even be an easement so that something future can be done with the paper mill lane extension. So that was a couple of things we put in there. And then with the green spaces, I forget. I think I wrote this at midnight when I first did it. Yeah, really it was just preserving as much open space as possible. So they're planning on subdividing, I think, into 3 parcels to put, fairly decent sized homes on, but relative, it was just really about losing that space in general for the accessibility, for the potential for a trail connection to our neighboring township. That was the main thing that we were really concerned about. And then the main highlight is just, again, how important taking some of those remaining spaces that were identified for a potential official town map so that the township could potentially negotiate in the future and have a little bit more options, because it seems like there's just not going to be very much more of these opportunities in the future. That's really all I have, John, unless you.
Yeah, and what you
additional
have in
comment.
red is potential open space
Yeah.
that the township may want to negotiate for. And that would go from Sawmill Road over the easement. There are a couple of different possibilities for the easement. One is from the bottom of that plan. But the other one, right at the top of the plan, I noticed that there was an easement coming into that at the very top. It doesn't show on that schedule, but it was supposed to be a continuation of one of the roads up above that, near the paper mill house. So there's a paper mill road and there's a paper mill drive. And the paper mill road goes all the way over into Skunk Hollow. Paper mill drive splits off to the right. And what it said on the plan was there's a future easement from Paper Mill Drive that would come right down to the top of that property.
Can you pull up, it's the very first plan of the very first sheet of the plan set that we returned. Not in this, the plan set. I don't know if you have that readily available.
No, it's not attached.
No, it's on there.
Okay. So if that's an easement that would go already in place from Paper Mill Drive, you could walk from Paper Mill Drive down that easement, get on this property, take a sharp left over to the preserve in Radnor Township, Skunk Hollow, without really bothering too much the houses on the top of that parcel. And that's, I guess, a concern. We don't know whether we're going to get a throughway through Paper Mill Road because it's being held up by developers. If that doesn't go through, then we're going to need this additional way. If it goes through, it may not be needed. So it might be a good idea to try to plan for that going forward. Also, I have the feeling that the road on Sawmill Road is going to be a while before we get a path down there because of the difficulty. And if we had another easement up at the top and we had a trail going from the drive, this could maybe be 10 years in front of what we finally get at Sawmill. So that's a possibility. Any further comment on this? Now, this would be sent to the supervisors, or would it be the planning committee?
I believe it would probably go to the planning commission first. I would have to look back. I think this has only had one meeting before the planning commission. It was actually
Okay.
never acted on at the planning commission. Do you know, Steve? I don't. So yeah, I don't think it was acted on at the planning commission at this point. So
Okay.
this could go, there's some other issues that are zoning issues that have to be addressed first.
Yeah.
Which
Take a while.
may impact whether or not the section in red would be even an option because of some street frontage requirements. And so I don't know how that would work if there was an easement that took that much space.
Yeah.
So But we'll send it and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Do I have a motion approving Mr. DiVincenzo's recommendations and with the recommendations to be sent to the Planning Commission and also the Board of Supervisors?
I move.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the committee? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is approved. And I thought this was an excellent job, Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, discussion and possible recommendation regarding the Garrett Williamson Land Development Project. Again, Anthony.
Again, so, all right, so Garrett Williamson, they have this proposed plan to essentially expand a bit because they have some childcare services. They want to put in a building, additional parking. We obviously extremely value that property as part of the township and what they do there. But we wanted to treat them as fairly as everybody else and treat them equally. So we're same comments, same kind of things of looking for, going back to the Trails and Greenways master plan that was established years ago and looking at the proposed trails and the open spaces and what we were trying to do there. So the main recommendations we had there was to engage with Garrett Williams on this and talk about at least establishing potentially future easements or easements for future construction of trails that are shown in that exhibit up there that are essentially bordering the property and trying to get access to Crum Creek and Preston Run for a lot of the rest of the township. And again, trying to keep in mind the sensitivity of it, that they don't want things necessarily going right through their property, through where they're going to have their kids that they're taking care of and everything like that, which is obviously important. So trying to really just say to the Board of Supervisors, can you engage in conversation with them about the potential for writing these kinds of things in to have these future easements so that if the township, maybe we do get a grant available in the future and we would have already the legal mechanism in place at that point where now we have the money to go build these trails that we've been calling out for so long. So that's the main thing. The green space is there. Again, going back to the township map, is making sure that Garrett Williamson stays in some level as functional as it is and needs to be, but as open and as green as we would like it to be, considering the dwindling amount of locations in Newtown Township. Beth Dundisha had given a lot of suggestions, and she had initially reviewed this and realized that some of the plantings that the landscape architecture had put on the original plans were non-natives and that there are substitutes. So that was another thing that we had hoped that maybe either the Shade Tree Council or whoever else, the Parks Department, somebody that would have the access to that ability. Beth said she was willing to, give advice on that if asked and provide a little bit more detail. But that was the other main thing in the green spaces is there are alternatives that are native species to the area that would provide the same look and essentially the same viability, but then be native. So there would be a little bit healthier, a little bit easier to maintain, that kind of stuff. So those are the other main points from the green spaces portion of this review.
I think the idea here would be to try to minimize any impact on Garrett Williamson on the trails. So with that in mind, we have scheduled out trails at the very periphery.
Yep.
And again, we're maybe not both of them, but we're looking at the upper part and the lower part. And I guess a little bit of the eastern part, which is well away from any Garrett Williamson activities. And what would be nice if we got it over into Crum Creek, and hopefully in the future we can get an easement along there from Aqua, and that would really benefit the township. Any other comment? I'm going to put it to a vote. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I
about-
have to recuse myself because I'm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just-
no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just please make sure when you do that tomorrow, I know you've done this before, but just send me a thing that you're on the board so we can attach it to the minutes as to why you recused yourself.
Okey doke.
Thank you.
Okay, do we hear a motion approving the recommendations by Mr. Di Vincenzo and another part of the approval would be to send these recommendations to both the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
It has been moved and seconded. Any further committee discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion's approved. Thank you, Anthony.
Just for the record, I would just note that it was a 6-0-1 vote, just so that you have it clear in the
Good
record.
point. Uh, 8.3, update information on grants and grant availability. Mr. Neese, I've heard that there's some consideration about bringing an individual on that would specialize in grants.
Well, my goal would be to bring somebody, would be to have a grant consultant that we would use to review grants that are written by the township to improve our potential for getting those grants versus bringing somebody on just for the purpose of writing grants. So there's lots out there, but my intention is to take one of our employees and have them kind of work towards writing grants, but that we would hire a grant consultant to assist in that process so that we do a better job, making sure we tackle what most of the grantors are looking for. But that's the goal.
Okay.
Is there a potential for that consultant to at least have an initial scope of work that would include identifying all the recurring yearly grants that would be most applicable to the township? So we're not like waiting, we're not doing the ones hunting and pecking, and the township isn't doing the ones hunting and pecking all the time. Is they could give you a list of potential grants that could
I mean,
essentially
I'm sure
be
they would have
available.
something, that would be my goal, but ultimately, most of them, we kind of know which ones are at least the reoccurring grants, because they come up, almost every year about the same time.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, 8.4, update information on wildflower plantings along Goshen Road Trail. Beth Danchisha is not here tonight. There's no report on that. 8.5, update information on signage to Newtown Meadow Preserve. Also, Beth Danchisha, I did get an email from her, and I'd like to read that. She said she has the basic layout of all the Meadow signs. She just needs to find and add in graphics. So if we wanted to print with no images, we're ready to go. But I really do suggest adding images to make them more compelling. Does the committee agree with her on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I would too. Okay. We now have 8.6, update information and potential action on extensions of the Newtown Meadow Preserve Trail. Erin.
I do not have an update. The last I was involved in this conversation was with Steve, and he was going to be having a meeting at some point with a solicitor, HOA president, so.
And I have had that meeting. And we are in conversation. That's about all that I would say at this moment as to where we are. Have some ideas that the president and I talked about. He's supposed to be getting back with me. He's taking some things back to a couple other board members, and they have some desires and I have some solutions. So let's see where we go.
Okay.
Okay, it sounds positive.
Great, so I'll just wait to hear an update
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
great.
what I can say is that right now, I believe there's a pretty low appetite for connecting into Echo Valley. At least that's the conversation I've recently had with the board member. And I believe they've talked with you. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And is that your understanding?
So my understanding as of tonight is that we need to start
Okay,
with anyone who is a stakeholder in any area, homes, neighbors, anyone who would be near an extension to the Meadow Preserve. So whether it's Echo Valley or wherever it is, our committee's commitment would be to work with the residents and ensure that the trail would be established in a way that's mutually agreeable. I know that the township doesn't have any appetite to upset any residents or neighbors. And my living in Echo Valley, I certainly have no appetite to upset my own neighbors. But I feel like this committee was created, and our charter is to create more walkability in the township and to connect trails. So I think our committee's position is that we would like to explore conversations about all of the trails.
Sure.
And figure out if there is feasibility there. And
Sure.
so within my conversation, yes, that's where we are. Don't stop the conversations before we start them, but certainly ensure that every stakeholder's opinion is,
Yeah.
taken into consideration.
I think that's a good overview of where I think we are.
Okay, any more discussion on that issue? Okay, moving on, 8.7, update information on the rail trail feasibility study. Mr. Neese?
It's kind of in my hands. I have to have a meeting with some property owners, and I was supposed to have that meeting. I believe it was either last week or the week before. It got postponed due to some illness, and so I think it's rescheduled for sometime in November.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. We're now on public comment. Is there any public comment that anyone would like to make?
I've been asking this of any of the residents that do come for this period, if you would at least tell us maybe your first name and like what part of the township you live in, because you're just trying to learn who's getting engaged, and you don't have to be on to. Nellis Preserve.
Good, okay, yeah.
Oh.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
What's your general interest or understanding of this committee and group?
We came to learn about it, but we have interest.
Great. Great. Sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah, we really appreciate, seriously, any involvement. If any of your neighbors, you can get more people to come to the meetings, come to the trail walks that we host and stuff like that, please do. Because, I say this all the time, Leonard keeps saying it, unless people show up to these meetings and make the voices heard of why they voted this original plan in, then it doesn't matter. We're never going to end up getting to the goals of which we set out for ourselves, which are definitely good.
Perhaps this is a time just to ask, because right now, Equus has, of course, control over like the all lives. So, cops can't really give tickets, they can warn people, et cetera. But is there a timeline for that? One of the issues in my little comment is traffic. People are out of hand. Driveway, and I'm really told before we do that. So is that something? Bill Equus,
Yeah,
Is that
I mean, it's like any private road that we have, I live in a HOA that we have private roads. And so when there's private roads, there's less control from our police on those roads. And on one level, that's good. On the other level, it's bad, right? And so, and one of the things where it's bad is this particular issue. The police, there's some things that we've recommended to BPG. BPG has supposedly agreed to help address that. I don't know where they are in the process. I can follow up with Mr. Ford.
Connector for different, in other words, people want to do shortcuts, which is fine. I expect that, but what I'm worried about is because a lot of us who live there and others who visit, because people come with their cars and walk their dogs, et cetera, but crossing the street, for instance, I live on Drive, you could
Sure.
do that. Winding way, if you, that's a dragway for kids.
Have you talked to Equus on that matter?
If you're going to speak, I would ask that you come and speak at the mic, only because if people are listening to the recording at home, and I don't know if the mic's turned on, if it's red, it's not on. So if you'll just push the button on the power there, it'll go to green. Okay, there you go then.
DJ Warner. Specific to our development, which is the Enclave, there's supposed to be some additional sidewalks that are not in right now. So we're kind of curious about that. That's a specific concern we have. It's a lot of people have to walk out in the street until they get onto Charles Ellis where there's sidewalks. We moved from a community in New Jersey, which had a very active bicycle pedestrian advocacy group. And one thing that they did in conjunction with the township was made a detailed map of all the sidewalks in the township and sidewalks and trails to help guide where to, and I don't know if you're involved in identifying sidewalk needs, like.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's one of our main trusts.
Very powerful tool to focus discussion, brainstorm where to focus on stitching sidewalks and walkways together.
Yeah, I would just mention in focusing on developers who are putting in different improvements to put either walkways, either sidewalks in and or trails in. An example is the Presbyterian Church over at the corner of Goshen Road. There doesn't really go anywhere today necessarily other than to their parking lot, but there's a connection there because we've also required the school to do it. And so as you start working your way down, do I think it's going to happen in the next 5 years? Probably not. Will it happen in my time here as the township manager? Probably not. But every time we make a connection, we improve the chances of the next connection being made. And for example, we were talking about the Ellis Preserve. They're getting ready to do an expansion. They're widening Route 3. It's a little bit further out. And one of the things they've agreed to do is put a sidewalk in kind of from where the Uno's Pizza is, if you know where I'm talking about, on that side of the street heading eastbound up to the Goddard School. And the township is working on a sidewalk down Ellis Avenue right now. And so those are additional connection points that are sidewalks that come through this group as kind of connections But they're also focusing heavily on where we would like trails as well.
But Stephen, I will say that our first move here was actually sidewalks.
Yes.
because we had a grant, felt that of all the things, because walking from Ellis for people who want to sidewalks is small grant, but still enough to put
Sure.
sidewalks in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the two plan reviews you saw us go over earlier today, the salt and all that, we've been doing a bunch of those, and some of the times when they come in, if we see any ability to make recommendation that they put sidewalk out in front, there was what was the name of the property? First one that we did. The Nolan property, that's right.
Yeah.
We always trying to make sure they didn't have any sidewalks shown in their entire new neighborhood. And they had, I forget how many properties originally, it was like 27 originally. So we said, well, we'd like sidewalks throughout and then also sidewalk along the frontage, because like Steve said, it doesn't matter, it doesn't connect to now. If we don't put it in there, then there's nothing in the future. So we have been making that recommendation. One of the things I think Amy and Delia, maybe both of you made the comment was school kids at the bus stop in the morning, if they don't have sidewalk, they're going to be standing in the road because they're not going to want to stand in the dirt, in the mud potentially, depending on time of the year. So we are regularly cognizant of it.
Yeah, we're a little bit a victim of our history here because we mostly expanded in the 50s and 60s, where the idea was that, well, we have automobiles now, we don't need sidewalks. We can just get into our car and go anywhere we want, but that was a little short-sighted if we look back from today. So we're making a conscious effort to correct that. Our walkability is rather low now, but what the goal of this committee is to get to a spot where anybody in the township, in any place in the township, can walk to any other place. And that's going to take some time, but that's our goal.
That one plan that we showed up on the screen with the Garrett Williams, that exhibit and a lot of others are in the network plan, the Township Greenways and Open Space Plan was published in August 2020. That's on the website. That's what they were mentioning. So definitely be worth reading through it. It's a big document. It's 140 some pages, but just scroll through the pictures and you can kind of see the ones, and it clearly identifies the exhibits of where the proposed trails are.
And we're working on things now that hopefully, if they come to fruition, will make a major change in what we're doing here in the township.
Really appreciate you attending tonight. Though. Thank you.
Okay, are there any items for the next agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any committee discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All opposed?